going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz, Phoenix, the YWC Reality Check, and this is WWE. Last week, your weekly look back at the week that was in the WWE. Let's address the elephant in the room. First of all, yeah, you can see me. Finally got a new camera, not the best in the world. I'm not a rich guy, but we're going to try this. Trying to teach myself how to do some editing things. That's going to be a work in progress because, man, podcasting is just way easier. It allows me to be way more lazy. But yes, for the first time in a long time, you can see my pretty sexy face. And yes, I dusted off the gimmick hat. So here we are. Just finished watching Forbidden Door. I'm not going to have a whole lot of AEW talk on this show because I'd rather talk about good stuff. So, we are 1 week away. We are 1 week away from Money in the Bank weekend where I'm going to be because it's in Toronto. And historically, it's kind of cool to look forward to Toronto. We haven't had a SmackDown since Edge's retirement match against Sheamus. We haven't had an NXT pay-per-view event in Canada, period, since NXT TakeOver Toronto 2, which I was also at. And we've never, and let me double check, ever had a Money in the Bank up here in Canada, let alone here in Toronto. So I am very, very hyped. Tomorrow morning is Canada Day. I'm not working. I'm sleeping in. That was a fucking long pay-per-view. Was it not? Yes, by the way, I'm going to be looking here and here because my camera's not 100% center, so I hope that doesn't bug people too much. Also, if you are listening to this on the audio platforms, on Spotify, on iTunes, etc., let me know how the sound comes through, because this is an entirely different recording that I'm going to be doing as well. But yes, very, very much looking forward to Money in the Bank weekend next weekend. Everything we do this week is going to be a go-home to that. I don't know. Lots of fun. Canada Day tomorrow. To my fellow Canadians, happy Canada Day. By the time you're listening to this, it will be Canada Day. And to my American friends, happy early 4th of July as well. We got a lot of stuff to go over here. I'm not going to be previewing the pay-per-views or the SmackDown that's as part of that weekend here tonight. I'm going to be doing that later this week. Hopefully, we're going to have Jake DeMarco on here with me as well. Going to talk about some stuff from last week. More news. I'm looking at my notes here. Again, you'll have to excuse me. I'm going to have to get used to being back on camera again because I haven't done it in forever. Notes are over here, screen's over here, camera's kind of sitting in the middle, so if it looks like I'm looking off screen, it's because I am, quite frankly. There's a lot of news and notes, things that we're going to talk about, and it's going to be more news and notes related than rundowns of Raw and SmackDown like I was doing when I initially started doing the Triple H era that then became WWE last week, because quite frankly, doing it this way is easier. 99% of the things I do on this channel, on this podcast, depending on how you're listening to me, is why'd you do it that way? Because it was easier. That's it. That's all there is. Have to start on a sad note, two sad notes actually, the passing of both Roman Reigns' dad and former Wild Samoan Sika Anoa'i. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And also, I don't have a name, but the father of Pat McAfee, the father-in-law of Pat McAfee also passed away, which was why he wasn't on Raw, which led to Miz being on commentary for half the night, and then Michael Cole later on in the night pulling a Joey Styles. Also, there's a news story. I'm not going to read it off because it's a little bit disingenuous for me to just sit here and read it. But if you go to No DQ or wherever you get your wrestling news from, there is a post that was shared by a wrestling fan of a message that they got from Randy Orton when they reached out to Randy Orton about some issues that they were dealing with as far as depression goes. Randy Orton gave a pretty damn awesome response. It's worth checking out. It's worth going out of your way if you just like those stories that are like, some good can happen. Some a lot of the wrestling community shit online, especially on Twitter, X, is a lot of bullshit, but there is some good shit out there, and Randy Orton reminding us all that there are good people out there in the world, trying to put some good vibes out there in the world. And not that I'm the one to say this at all, but anybody that's suffering with stuff like that, anybody like Roman Reigns, like Pat McAfee, that are suffering with loss, or anybody else that's suffering with mental struggles. I don't want to be clinical about this. That's not it's not my place. If you're struggling today, I hope you have a better tomorrow. If you need help, I hope you've got people around you to help you. Reach out, make those networking things, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's professionals, whether it is just going to Twitter and having faith enough in the following that you have on Twitter to say, hey guys, I'm having a bad day, throw me a good vibe or two. And if you want to, follow me at Spaz Phoenix on X. If you're having a bad day, I'll try to throw you a good vibe if I see it, if the algorithm is forever in your favor. But RIP to Sika anoa'i, RIP to, as I say, Pat McAfee's father-in-law, whose name wasn't given, I don't think, but, thoughts with the McAfee family, thoughts with the anoa'i family, and not great news to start the week with, to be sure, but our thoughts go out to them is such a cliche thing to say, especially when our is only me, because it's just me talking tonight. But I would be remiss if I didn't start with some of the sad stuff right off the top. Another thing we can switch gears into, and I don't have very many thoughts on this because there hasn't been that many details put out there just yet. The Indianapolis Sports Authority and WWE have entered into this massive deal to get all 3 big pay-per-views. And we've gone from the Big 5, when it was King of the Ring, to the Big 4, and then everybody kind of says that Survivor Series doesn't really count anymore. I disagree, but there's really the Big 3 now. Rumble, Mania, and SummerSlam. So Indianapolis is going to have next year's Royal Rumble, and then, very, very vaguely stated, we're going to have a future WrestleMania and a future SummerSlam. Now, I hope they're not all in the same year. First of all, if they're getting Rumble this year, SummerSlam the following year, Mania the next year, that's not too shabby. That's some forethought and some planning to get excited about in Indianapolis. People are saying that they're going to put a package deal together, and it's like, okay, you can't say in 2024 what you're going to be doing in 2027 if the deal does go that long. So I think that's a bit much, especially when we consider that SummerSlam past 2026 is going to be a 2-night event as well. Here's my thing. Oh, first of all, we should say that the Royal Rumble is happening technically in February. Now, it's February 1st. It's just outside of January, but it's enough to start the conversation of how do you feel about Royal Rumble being in February? I want to say that it won't change anything. I do. There was those times where you had WWE Day 1, you had New Year's Revolution, you had stuff like that in WWE that was actually like a preliminary pay-per-view before the Royal Rumble came along. But the Royal Rumble is the kickoff to the WWE pay-per-view year. And, I mean, New Japan and AEW just announced that they're doing a pay-per-view on the 5th, which is another crossover show. I think they said it was called Wrestle Destiny or Wrestle Dynasty, something like that. I'm not being funny, I can't remember the name off the top of my head. They probably said Dynasty, and I think Destiny because, Destiny, check it off your Spaz Phoenix bucket list. It's absolutely fine. But if they get the jump on being the first pay-per-view of the year, which I think New Japan already does, don't they always do one on the 4th? But Royal Rumble for WWE fans is the kickoff to the year. The farther and farther and farther you push that, I mean, WrestleMania used to be in March, and now we're talking about it might be in May. I don't know. They're doing all the international show stuff. Do we do a big international show in the middle of January? Do they go back to Australia in January? I mean, there's been talk that I think they said they want to do Arena Mexico for an international show. Do they throw that in January and give us a little bit of something before we get to the Royal Rumble? But then the Royal Rumble loses its stature as the kickoff to the WWE pay-per-view year. And I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not going to lie. I want you guys to throw it down in the box below or hit me up on X at Spaz Phoenix. Let me know what you think about a February Rumble. Now, Indianapolis fans are loving life because they know they're getting a Royal Rumble, they know they're getting a 2-night SummerSlam, and they know they're getting a 2-night WrestleMania. Now that's awesome, but if you're any other city, any other country, anywhere, you gotta be shrugging and thinking well, fuck us, I guess, then. Is that not the thing? Now, if they're spreading it out, that's not quite as bad. If they said, in 2025, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and SummerSlam are all happening in Indianapolis, everybody else should throw their hands up in the air and say, well, fuck us then. They haven't really rolled this out. I do think whatever this is, if they're trying to sell this as a package to the Indianapolis Sports Authority, you got to end it on WrestleMania. You got to end it on the highest note. Royal Rumble is one of the more popular pay-per-views of the year because nothing quite brings people back together like the Royal Rumble. I gotta say that. SummerSlam's kind of the midway point. It's it's WrestleMania 2. It's WrestleMania in the summer. It's Simon Miller from What Culture is starting to call SummerSlam Hot WrestleMania, which I think is a hell of a thing to do. But as much as they try to make SummerSlam the second WrestleMania, it's not WrestleMania, is it? So you gotta have WrestleMania last. It's kind of like what I'm going into this weekend in Toronto, where we're ending on the NXT show. Now, I like NXT. But I really did like it better the other way around when you had the NXT show on the Saturday and ramped up to the WWE show proper on the Sunday. Now, there was a time in the black and gold era where we said, oh, well, we probably peaked with TakeOver, which is absolutely a thing and was absolutely true at the time, but I don't think it's necessarily true this time. There's a whole lot of possibilities as far as crossovers from various places. They've just announced some other crossovers with Shayna Baszler. We're going to get to that in a second. All the TNA stuff that you guys know I've been liking. Joe Hendry is rumored for a match with Lexis King, although that hasn't been approved or solidified or confirmed in any way. It's just stuff that you hear. I would love to see Lexis King come out, shoot his mouth off for 2 minutes in Toronto and get owned by Joe Hendry just to do the Joe Hendry entrance. It's fine. But yeah, let me know what you think about if you live in Indianapolis, let me know what you think. Let me know how hyped you are about this. If you live anywhere else, let me know if you kind of think the way I think. It's like, are they telling the rest of the world to fuck off, where it's like, don't even bother because we've given these next 3 huge, gigantic tentpole shows to Indianapolis, and that sets our stake out for like the next 3 years. It's huge, but I wouldn't blame people for not liking it. Now, speaking of things we can all get on board with, wouldn't surprise any of you, I don't really like censorship. Ask me what I think about politics, ask me what I think about social media, ask me what I think about YouTube guidelines, ask me what I think about, politics in Hollywood and what can and can't happen, and, this has to happen in wrestling or else this group will get mad. Ask me what I think about censorship. Now, the Indianapolis announcement and this announcement, or this train of thought, I should say, all came from the Triple H interview Triple H went on Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast. Oh, Logan Paul's just a mouthpiece for the company. Well, good. What do you want me to say? Logan Paul's awesome, and that pisses off all the right people. WWE is kicking ass right now, and that pisses off all the right people. So having Triple H on Logan Paul's podcast to talk about how much WWE is kicking ass, to put over himself, put over Nick Khan, put over the current success of WWE, all the international stuff and whatever. But they did start talking about Netflix in January, and he started talking about, we're not going to have to worry about censorship, every now and then, the fans get overexcited, and if you're watching it on Fox, it's going to be either silenced or it's going to go to a complete black screen, and nobody really wants that. It breaks up our flow. And then various people on social media, like various wrestlers, were saying at the same time, it's kind of bad for us, because if people are seeing a black screen on their TV and they don't exactly know what's going to go on, then they think it's part of WWE or part of their production, or like the show itself is falling apart, which is absolutely true. Not a lot of people are going to say, hey, my screen went black. Is that Fox's fault or WWE's fault? They're just going to say, oh, well, WWE's show was kind of falling apart tonight. It looked like an AEW show. But again, I watch a lot of podcasters in the UK. I watched Andrew Pollard again on What Culture this morning talking about this very same issue, and he said, over there they don't get it, and here we didn't get it, on SmackDown, where we had Logan Paul and LA Knight, and they both came out and they were both with basketball players. I don't watch basketball, so it wasn't really for me, but it was for somebody, so that's something. And there was some, fuck this team, fuck that team, some middle fingers, etc. And apparently, if you were watching in the States, again, you guys can let me know down in the box below, because I don't obviously live in the States. Look at the big ass flag behind me. Let me know what that was like. Let me know how. Was it as bad as people said? Was the screen going black every 5 seconds? Was there a big blackout and then Nia Jax appeared? Was there a big blackout and then all of a sudden there was a basketball player standing next to Logan Paul? Was there a big blackout during the Bloodline segment that we're going to talk about later on? Because that sounds like a pain in the ass. I'm not going to lie. I was watching, like I said, watching the Forbidden Door show from the Mud Show, and one good match with a shit finish. Anyways, and I watch it on Triller, obviously, and Triller has a pretty good stream, but if it hiccups, then you got to find your place in the stream again. That happened to me like once or twice. If this was happening all the way through on TV, on Fox, I can imagine it was absolutely horrible. And it's just funny that he was talking about this earlier on in the week, and then it happened a bunch on this past Friday's SmackDown. So, basically, long and the short of it is him saying, yeah, once we go to Netflix, we're not going to have to worry about that. So, I think people read this the wrong way. It's like, as soon as we go to Netflix, we're going to encourage everybody to be assholes. And it's like, no. If you're doing, again, we're going to talk about SmackDown in a minute, but when you're doing something that's going to get such a visceral reaction from this engaged audience, from this cool story that you're telling, that they're telling, Solo Sikoa to fuck off, or they're telling Logan Paul to fuck off, or random basketball player X that's from the other team, and we don't like them because they're from over there, and people are engaged and involved and invested is the word I was looking for there, and they're telling that person to fuck off or you suck or whatever the case may be. He's not saying, I want everybody to come in the first Raw of 2025 and start dropping F-bombs to make a statement, and this is Netflix and we can swear now. There we go. First technical glitch of the Spaz back on camera era. Anyways, yeah, I'm not going to say Triple H is saying, oh, you have to go drop F-bombs now to show how cool we are on Netflix. It's just, when you speak your mind, it will be heard. That's pretty basic, but it's also pretty awesome, and then they didn't say much else. They didn't get into... There was a graphic that went around, oh, Raw's going to go back to 2 hours, SmackDown's going to go to 3 hours, there's going to be this, that, and the next, this, that, and the next. He didn't get into any of that. I don't even think Logan Paul asked him about that, because I don't know where that graphic came from. It looked like something that was like a WWE-produced graphic, but nobody was around to confirm or deny it, or whatever the case may be. But it was one of the big things that we talked about when we said WWE was going to Netflix. 3 questions basically came up in my mind and with most of the people that I spoke to. One was, what's the censorship going to be like? One was, is Raw going to go back to 2 hours? One was, like, what's the commercial situation going to be like that? And he's nailing off the censorship right off the bat. Because if they're not censored, then the fans can express themselves more clearly. And the wrestlers, in their creative endeavors, again, I'm not saying, go out there effing and jeffing every Monday night just because you can. It's just that censorship is a limitation, and limitation kills creativity. That's it, that's all. I'm not saying I want somebody to go out there with a cheese grater and bust somebody up every 5 minutes either, but it's cool to know they have that in their back pocket. One of the criticisms I have, the best story in WWE right now is Punk versus Drew McIntyre. There's a lot of other cool things we could talk about. The disintegration of the Judgment Day, this new revamped Bloodline story that we've got going on, and like I said, we're going to get to SmackDown in a second. But the hottest one-on-one story right now is Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. My only problem right now is if they're going to pay it off this year, presumably at SummerSlam, that's what everybody keeps saying. No, you don't have to censor yourself as much on pay-per-view, but your pay-per-view still has to tie into your weekly show, and right now your weekly show is still on TV, and right now your show is PG. So what you have is the same problem, I'm going to use a movie reference here, the same problem that Terminator had when they were describing Judgment Day. Not that Judgment Day, the Judgment Day in the Terminator. The first couple of movies talked about Judgment Day, like this far-off thing, this gigantic apocalypse that nobody could conceptualize, nobody could picture, nobody could even imagine. And then in the later movies, they tried to actually show you what Judgment Day looked like. And they had built it up so well that nothing they showed you on TV was going to satisfy what your brain had already created. You have the same problem right now with the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre match, in the sense that, again, hate to give AEW credit, but the sort of Moxley deathcore type of match is kind of warranted here. I would love Big fan of MJF. He had a cool match tonight with some guy that looked like Spicy Bane from Batman. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Shout out to MJF. You need to do something like what CM Punk did with MJF in AEW. And I don't think there is a what the WWE style currently is. I don't think there's a WWE style match that will pay off the story that these guys have told. And keep in mind that both of these guys have told this story while both of them were out with injury. And it still manages to be one of the most engaging things on WWE television. And that's a credit to them. That's a credit to the WWE and their creative input. And it's obviously a credit to the two guys involved. So, if we can drag that out, like, have a match that doesn't really have a satisfying ending at SummerSlam, will people be pissed off on the night? Yes. Is it a matter of piss off the Cody Rhodes fans at WrestleMania 39 so that they can have their catharsis at WrestleMania 40? Yes. If you can drag this into the Netflix era where there's a little more freedom, a little bit more slack in the rope, you can give these guys the real match that they deserve to have and that this story deserves to have. So, Triple H going on the Logan Paul Impulsive show and bragging that they're not going to be censored on Netflix. It's a little bit more than saying, ooh, we can go on TV and say fuck now. It's a little bit more than that. So this is a really cool thing leaning in the right direction. Little bit of news. We got some of the sad stuff out of the way. Indianapolis deal is out of the way. Triple H on Logan Paul out of the way. A couple of things to pull from Raw. Very quickly, sort of sarcastically, but still kind of respectfully, we had Rollins and Priest in the ring. They cut a promo on each other. They've already got the match. It's already been set up. And they put some stipulations on the match. If Seth Rollins doesn't win the title, then he does get... I hate this because they use it a little too often in WWE these days. Seth Rollins can't fight for the title again as long as Damian Priest holds the championship. Damian Priest loses. He has to leave the Judgment Day. Now, it is one of those things that doesn't bear any resemblance to the real world, but that's okay because it's wrestling. If I beat you in this fight that we're going to have, you can't hang out with your friends anymore. It's like you're grounded or something. Do I think that they're going to put the belt back on Rollins? I'm not sure. The winner of this is going to go on to SummerSlam to face Gunther, and I ultimately think Gunther's going to hold the championship. So do I think Seth Rollins is going to hold it for a month? Probably not. Do I think you spin him off into another story and bring him back around maybe once Gunther is the champion at a Survivor Series or even a Royal Rumble next year? Possibly. I don't think that you toss it on the waist of Seth Rollins for a month. Now, the stipulation that Priest would have to leave the Judgment Day if he lost is kind of irrelevant because it kind of feels like the group is already coming apart at the seams anyway. And it's kind of cool to do it now because a while ago I would have said, well, what do you do with everybody? But I think it's pretty clear right now when Judgment Day falls apart, Priest is going to go off as a babyface. Rhea's going to go off as a babyface when she comes back, probably get her title back. Who knows what the hell Carlito's going to do, but Carlito's kind of a hanger-on anyway. Finn and JD, it looks like, are going to stay as a tag team, especially now that they have what they have, which I'm going to talk about in a second as well. I think what you're going to get is Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio doing a very poor man's version, but doing a version of an Eddie China thing more in his favor rather than him looking up to Rhea. It's going to be Liv pretending that she's looking up to him, and he's going to be, it's going to be the custody of Dominic ladder match between Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. So, whereas before, when the group was all together and they were solidified and everybody was there and nobody was injured, the idea of breaking up the Judgment Day was like, that kind of sucks, and we're still having fun with these guys. But now the groundwork has been laid out. Damian Priest, in Rhea Ripley's absence, kind of feels like she's babysitting the rest of the group. He's watching the group get led around by the dicks by Liv Morgan because Rhea Ripley's not there. And as the champion, he's sort of frustrated, stomping around, thinking he's got bigger fish to fry anyway. So it's prime for a breakup. But I don't think that breakup's going to happen because I don't think you give Rollins a month-long title run. And I'm not going to lie. I mean, Rollins-Gunther would be awesome, I'm sure of it. But I'm kind of curious as to what Damian Priest versus Gunther looks like as well. So, As I say, I'm not getting into predictions tonight, but we have added additional stipulations to the match. Both of them are kind of played out stipulations. If you lose, you have to disband your group. If you lose, you can't fight for the title as long as I hold the championship. Now, staying on the Judgment Day thing, Liv Morgan called out Dominic Mysterio because she wanted to, like, fuck with him some more, pretty much. But instead, she was answered by Zelina Vega. Her and Zelina Vega are going to have a match this week on Raw for her championship. Zelina Vega's going to lose. There's going to be some fuckery, and maybe it'll get added to the Money in the Bank card, but I doubt it, because Triple H has this, you know, he likes this 5-match pay-per-view format now. I will say this, again, and I feel like I'm really coming in biased just watching the other guys, because they had a 15-match card, and that's way too much, especially when there was 5 on the kickoff. That's too much. WWE got complaints for being too much as well, but I do genuinely, and I've said this before, and I will keep saying it because it keeps getting more and more reinforced in my head. I think Triple H took the criticism that WWE shows were too long and went too far the other way. He's applied the super simple, old-school NXT TakeOver template to WWE, which you can't do because the roster is gigantic. You've got more titles to include, and you've got a way bigger roster. You've got 2 different shows to sort of muster matches from. I think you could be fine with 7 or 8. I think 5 is a little bit much. Now, on the other side of that, it works for Money in the Bank specifically because both ladder matches, I'm presuming, are going to go long. It works for something like the Royal Rumble because there's 2-hour-long matches on that card. You can throw 2 matches in the middle, and that's enough. But then you get into the argument of, is Royal Rumble the next pay-per-view that's going to get the 2-night treatment? And I wouldn't mind that either. I'm not going to lie. I don't mind long shows. Now, as far as what I watch tonight, I want long shows with matches that I'm interested in, but that one WrestleMania before they went to 2 nights where everybody was having trouble getting home because the pay-per-view went until like 1 o'clock in the morning. Now that sucks for the people in the arena because they were all chasing cabs and the trains had stopped running and all that kind of thing. But guess what? I was sitting right over there. I was watching it on my TV, and I had already decided that it's fucking WrestleMania. My night belongs to WWE. Give me a long-ass card, especially for WrestleMania. But, so, Zelina Vega is going to have this match with Liv Morgan next week. There's going to be fuckery. Liv Morgan's going to keep that title until Rhea Ripley comes back. Difference is, Dominic was still in the ring. They both kind of told off Dominic, and then Dominic got into it with his dad, setting up a match for them next week / tonight / whenever you guys are watching this. It's happening. I'm recording this at a little bit after midnight, so technically it's already Monday. So technically that match is happening tonight. The Zelina Vega, Liv Morgan match is happening tonight, and the Rey Mysterio versus Dominic match is also happening tonight on Raw. But it led to, you know, Priest coming in, saying, Dominic, what the fuck are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Liv Morgan going to the back, manipulating R-Truth into defending his tag team titles because The Miz wasn't there, because The Miz was on commentary, because Pat McAfee wasn't there, and she convinced him that it would be a good thing for Dominic if his other 2 friends, Finn and JD, got a tag team title shot, and because we know R-Truth loves Tom and Nick Mysterio, he wanted to do something nice for them. The title shot happened, and then Liv Morgan helped them win the belts. So Awesome Truth is done. Now, there was a really cool video put up on exclusives on WWE.com of Truth sort of being out of his goofy character a little bit and talking about how he let the team down and whatever, and Miz was down in the dumps because he wanted to take those titles into SummerSlam because it's going to be in his backyard and all that kind of thing. And they sort of like both broke out of their goofy characters a little bit and sort of hyped each other up and got refocused, and yeah, we're going to get the titles back. And then in another exclusive, you had Finn and JD in the back with no rest of the Judgment Day, but Finn Balor sort of handing the microphone to JD and saying it's about the time the people of Monday Night Raw got to hear JD speak, and they got to talk about how it's taken him 22 years to get here. They're finally here together, mentor and student, all that kind of thing. And Finn put him over as this is like the first gold that he's won on the main roster, because I think he was either the Cruiserweight champion or the interim Cruiserweight champion when there was 2 belts when Santos Escobar had to fuck off with one of the belts. I think that's how it happened. So technically he held gold in NXT, but it's the first title that he's won on Raw. And even as bad guys, it's kind of cool that they got a minute to sort of put that over. So Liv is fucking with Dom. Liv is getting involved with Zelina Vega, who's obviously in a group with Rey Mysterio, who's Dominic Mysterio's dad. Liv then tries to make it up to everybody by getting them a title shot and then helping them win that title opportunity. She's really worming her way into the Judgment Day. So like I say, Dominic and her are going to be a thing going forward. I think she's going to lure Dom away from Rhea Ripley. If it's just her and Dom, that's fine. If she becomes the new, like, sort of quote-unquote mommy of the Judgment Day, and, like, Finn and JD stay with them as well as sort of like this little sub-faction of the original, like, basically what Solo Sikoa is doing on SmackDown right now under Liv Morgan, that would be a little bit hysterical as well. As I say, the Carlito thing, they keep maintaining the fact that he's kind of a clinger on to the Judgment Day, so if they just sort of toss him out at any given time, that won't make much of a difference at all. And the last thing, not having anything to do with the Judgment Day, had to do with sort of Chad Gable, who died last week because of everything that happened with the Wyatt Six, and everybody's saying he's got a little bit of blood on his head. Oh my god, WWE shot him in the head. Well, they didn't, and you're an idiot. But he looked pretty rough. He was the one that was focused on as the primary victim of the arrival of the Wyatt Six and whatever. He came back. He was all out of sorts and scared enough that he tried to remake Friends with Tozawa and Otis and Maxine, and that didn't really work. But he got his head right enough to be in his qualifier with, it was Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed, I think. So he's all out of sorts. He's been basically kayfabe killed last week, and he beat two monsters in a triple threat match to qualify for Money in the Bank. So he's going frying pan, fire a little bit. And then in the back later on, when he gets the cold shoulder from his old group, he bumps into who's definitely going to be his new group, which is the Creed Brothers and Ivy Nile. I still think that's an interesting thing for them to play with, because Ivy Nile and Maxine Dupree have been a tag team, so we'll see how that goes story-wise. But more to the point, after Chad Gable won his triple threat match against these two big monsters, and he's celebrating in the ring, lights go out, the ring fills with smoke, the single note repeating of the old Wyatt theme happens, and Nikki Cross shows up in the ring, and Gable decides to fuck the fuck off, because he's a smart guy. Academy training really came in handy there. And she gives a box to Michael Cole and, like, slinks away, like, grudge type thing, like what she's doing. Michael Cole opens the box, tries to sort of put together in his brain what he's just witnessed, opens up the box, there's a tape in it. Tape says "Play Me." So, a little bit of vibes from Saw. You know, I love that. A little bit of vibes from The Grudge. Not exactly my favorite movie, but I can get on board with it because I'm a horror movie fan and I like what the Wyatts are doing. Michael Cole then turns to the camera and says, "For you younger fans out there, this is called a VHS." And I just looked at my TV and I said, "Yes, Michael Cole, some of us are old. It's fine." And he said, he gave it to like a tech that was at ringside with him and said, "Take this to the back and see if you can find a VCR player," because he could, or see if you can find a VHS player, because he couldn't think of the word VCR, I suppose. That's the funny part of it. Like, you have the spooky part, you had Michael Cole reacting to the spooky stuff, and Michael Cole is sort of like this knowingly dorky guy that everybody's kind of finally accepted. People hated Michael Cole for a long time. I'm glad that he's a little more accepted now, and what he does for this company is like a little more properly respected now. But he knows himself to be a little bit of a dork, and he sort of plays it up a little bit, and it's kind of endearing. So you had Nikki Cross, or Abigail, or whatever they're going to be calling her. I don't know if they've changed their names because they haven't specified that yet. Slow burn, it's very nice. You have that, you have Michael Cole reacting to it like a little bit of a dork, and then you have this thing where it actually goes back to production. They found a VHS player, and they put this video on, and it's Uncle Howdy, and he's sort of talking kind of to the camera. You don't really know who he's talking to. How have you been feeling? You know, how have you been coping? How have you been since the loss? And they turn the camera around, and it's obviously double shot. Yes, it's camera trickery, whatever. but it's Uncle Howdy talking to Bo Dallas. And I thought that was so cool, and such a neat way of just doing exposition in a really sort of artistic way and letting us know what's in Bo Dallas's head. And he said, all my life I just wanted to be like my brother, and I had my tries and my fails, and I finally made my way back here, and we were going to work together, and then he was taken away from me, and I feel like nobody knows what I feel like. It feels like, even Uncle Howdy even says what a lot of people on Twitter are saying, which is dumb, which is, do you feel like you're using his memory? And I'm glad they sort of threw that in there as kind of a fuck you to people that are trying to take away from this awesome thing that they're trying to do. And he's like, it's like people have already forgotten. We're going to remind them. So I like all this, right? Because clearly they've got some culty vibes to them. Clearly they've got some horror vibes to them. But it's not, and it's weird, and I said this the other week, you can have a lot of heart in horror movies, because a lot of horror movies, there's a lot of scary things, and there's fear, and there's fight or flight, and there's all that kind of thing. But in horror movies, there's a lot of death, there's a lot of suffering, there's a lot of injury, there's a lot of pain. And when there's a lot of pain, either physical pain or emotional pain, and people dying, if you've got a movie where people are dying, there's mourning implied in there somewhere. So the fact that they're doing this creepy thing, the fact that they're being presented as this like culty, anonymous, don't fuck with us, we are going to, burn the world down, force, and still somehow pulling at your heartstrings at the same time, is a really cool thing that I would not have expected from WWE even 2 or 3 years ago. I've always said that whether or not I think Triple H's WWE now is better, I do not agree. Because as far as the whole Vince McMahon thing goes, if what is said about Vince McMahon is true, then obviously he's terrible, obviously he needs to be removed. I wasn't there, I don't know what's true. People hate that take because it's easier just to hate the guy that people already hate anyway. I understand that people don't get that thought from me. I'm not going to say that Vince did anything because I wasn't there. So all I'm doing is listening to somebody else's story. One person's story over here says, hey, he did this. Other person's story over here says, no, he didn't. I don't know. I wasn't there. So, do I think that Vince McMahon's WWE was ripped away from him in a certain kind of way? Yes. If you want to hate me for that, that's absolutely fine. But, on the other side of that coin, we would have never gotten this in Vince's WWE. So am I benefiting from the fact that Vince had his company ripped away? Absolutely yes. Bo Dallas, or what's his name, Tyler Rotunda in real life, is a way stronger person than me. I could not do what he's doing right now. And I'm not going to get too mushy and whatever. If it's not your thing, it's not your thing. But here's my thing. If it's not your thing, fast forward 5 minutes, you'll be fine. What he's doing and what the people specifically involved in this are doing takes a little bit more than, hey, can I play this character? Hey, can I get into this gimmick? Like, there's more to it. And the fact that they're doing it at all is amazing to me. My hat's off to Bo Dallas, or whatever he's going to be called. I don't know whether he's going to be referred to as Howdy or whatever the case may be. The fact that it's even happening is amazing. The fact that it's coming off as well as it is so far is amazing. And I'm going to make another movie comparison, because I'm also a big fan of the MCU. You guys that have seen me when I've done Flicks Fix and talked about Marvel stuff and all that, really big fan of the MCU. When they got to Infinity War and Endgame, they had a lot to cram into one movie or two movies. And there were so many different stories they were trying to tie together. There were so many different threads that they had to pull and make it all work. By the time we got to Infinity War and Endgame, you had to look at it as a movie-making accomplishment and say, if this even kind of works, it's amazing. Now, this is a completely different context here because of the emotional ties involved and what Bo Dallas and company are trying to express while still being entertaining, while still actually mourning in real life. If this even kind of works, the fact that this even made it to screen a week and a half ago is already amazing. Whatever they do with it is, I don't want to say it's secondary, because TV still has to be good, and if it goes genuinely bad, we can say it's gone genuinely bad. But the fact that it launched the way it did, and they're still drip feeding it to you, you still don't know all their motivations, you still don't know, like, what are they still going by their old names? Are we going to address the fact that Eric Rowan wasn't with the company for a while, and then he came back? Are we going to tie that back to, the original Wyatt family? Are they going to mention Brody Lee, Luke Harper, whatever the case may be, in all this talk that they're doing about losing Bray Wyatt? If they've got Eric Rowan there, they might at some point bring in the fact that, Bray Wyatt wasn't the only brother that we lost, and they're not giving everything to you. They made their big first statement with no explanation. We've had basically a shot of Bo Dallas talking to himself, and as they finally panned it, because it was all shot in darkness, keeping it as anonymous as possible, but as you pulled out, you noticed that they were sitting in the old Firefly Funhouse set, which was another nice little touch, because all of them have become real-life versions of the people in the Firefly Funhouse, except for Uncle Howdy. Uncle Howdy came with the next version of Bray Wyatt after The Fiend. So, they could even, and I'm thinking about this as we're talking, which isn't great, we could even say that, like, everybody else in the group feels more at home in the Funhouse than Bo Dallas does, because Uncle Howdy never existed in the Funhouse. You could play, like, do I even belong here? I'm so sad that my brother is gone. Do I even deserve to pick up his torch? There's so much you could do with this, because it's doing the creepy stuff on one side, and it's doing this genuinely heartfelt, living memorial thing on the other side, and those two pieces are coming together. I'm rambling now, because it's so fucking good. And, like I said, I know it's not for everybody. The spooky, cultish stuff isn't for everybody. People are calling it supernatural. They haven't done anything supernatural. They've beaten the shit out of a couple of people, and they've sort of extrapolated to show you Bo Dallas, like, struggling with his inner demons as a metaphor. Like, they haven't, it's not The Undertaker bringing lightning down from the ceiling or anything like that. So, the simpler way to do it is, if it's not your thing, just say it's not your thing. That's it. That's all. You don't have to go any deeper than that, because here's the thing. Chances are, if you do go deeper than that, you're probably just being an asshole, and you probably watched the show tonight and thought it was good. So, I'm going to move on from that. My hat's off to... It was cool, because nobody else was even there. It was just Nikki Cross being like the harbinger, the messenger, the... however you want to call that, and the video was just on screen. So for all we know, Nikki Cross was the only one in the building that night. The other thing... I don't have very much to say bad about Mark Henry, because he just does commentary and he says stuff and he still gets an AEW paycheck, I'm pretty sure. The night that this happened, the night that they debuted last week, or should I say a week and a half ago now, there was a fan's picture that went to like a Whataburger or somewhere like that after Raw and ran into the mall and asked if he could take a picture with them. And it's Bo Dallas, and it's Dexter Lumis, and it's Eric Redbeard, and it's Nikki Cross, and they're looking normal, and Mark Henry basically came out and said, well, wow, they did a cool thing and ruined it in one night. Fuck off, dude. Like, I don't have a lot of hate for Mark Henry. I really don't. It's like I don't understand the hate that people have for Bully Ray. So I don't want to come out here and say that I'm, like, I've absolutely turned on Mark Henry. Mark Henry's a piece of shit. I'm not saying that. But, like, seriously, fuck off. The reason that this works is because we know the real life stuff, the real life Bo Dallas, Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda, Tyler Rotunda, brother lost his brother, and now he's trying to do a creative. We're as behind the guy doing the creative thing as we are behind the creative thing, and that's why it works. And if you don't know that, or if you can't, like, wrap your head around that, then I don't know what to say to you. Like I say, not going to totally shit on Mark Henry, but on that one particular case, oh, they did this really cool thing and fucked it up in one night. No, they didn't. They took a moment to embrace one of the fans that embraced what they were doing, and what they are doing is paying homage and memorial to a guy that fucking died. Don't be a dick. Anyways, let's move on. Let's move on from Raw. Let's get into some more news stuff. Crossover. You guys know, if you guys have been listening to the pod for a while now, you guys know my favorite thing in the world right now in WWE is the crossover, because for ages the stick that WWE was built with was, oh, they never cross over with anybody. Well, look back in your history, it's simply not true. But especially now, Shayna Baszler is going back to Bloodsport. Her opponent hasn't been announced as of yet, but she's been announced as returning to Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 11. I don't know when it is. I didn't write down the date because I'm special like that. I think, actually, it's in the thumbnail. So when you see the video, her little graphic thing is part of the thumbnail that I've made for this video. So you'll see it there. Actually, I'm going to pull it up right here. Come on. And my screen just went black. That's fantastic. Bum, bum, bum. There we go. Bloodsport. Sunday, July 28th. So not that far away, even. That's really cool. I finally sat down a little while ago and watched the Shayna Baszler Masha Slamovich Bloodsport match. It was a lot of fun. You can see now where people are saying, like, oh, NXT Underground took their inspiration from Bloodsport. They very clearly did. Raw Underground didn't work. NXT Underground does, and as I say, you look back at Bloodsport, which is not something I'm really familiar with on a grander scale. I don't know much about GCW other than I think Matt Cardona went there and made part of his indie name there and was a champion there, and I think he's like the general manager there right now. That's the extent of my knowledge of GCW. So, if she's going to go back and, I don't know, fight Masha Slamovich again or fight somebody else, I probably won't. I'll be honest, like I was at WrestleMania weekend, I'll probably won't watch the pay-per-view. Unless there's a whole bunch of other people on there that I also want to see. But I will go out of my way to find that match, like I did find the match with her and Masha Slamovich, because that was a lot of fun. So this ongoing relationship with Bloodsport is continuing. That's really cool. The bigger thing that I like a lot, is the crossover with TNA. Now, there's been TNA stars on NXT television now. Jordynne Grace fought Stevie Nicks. Then she went on to the pay-per-view to face Roxanne Perez. They had the Battle Royal with Joe Hendry, and Frankie really popped. Like, everybody popped for Joe Hendry, and that's the one that everybody's excited about. Rightfully so. The guy's entertaining as hell. I kind of popped for Kazarian. Really like Kazarian. Also really like the fact that the Elite Hunter was on NXT, which is absolutely fantastic. But, spoilers. Spoilers here right now, so if you don't want to hear spoilers for the current tapings that are going on this weekend, I'll give you a couple seconds to skip forward. It's a video, it's a podcast, you can do that. Charlie Dempsey showed up on TNA to attack Trey Miguel and Leon Slater and Zachary Wentz, be in the middle of a Trey Miguel Leon Slater match. I think this is actually airing this coming Thursday, so there's that. Dempsey went on later. I don't know whether it's in the same night or whether it's in the next set of tapings. He goes on to, again, have a one-on-one match with Zachary Wentz, which is fine. He defeats him. So, in all the crossover, I think this is the first match that the invading person has won. Actually, no, that's not true. Jordynne Grace won her match on NXT, but she lost against Roxanne Perez, and then both of the TNA guys did not win the Battle Royal. That was won by Javon Evans, which we're going to talk about later. And this did lead to all three members of the Rascals taking on three members of the No Quarter Catch crew in a later show. So, here's the thing. The Rascals, currently on Impact, there's Trey Miguel, there's Zachary Wentz, and one other guy whose name I can never remember because I'm a bad person. So that's three of the Rascals. Now, No Quarter Catch crew on NXT, now that they have, I can't think of his name either, because this is really bad, and this is why you should take more detailed notes. No Quarter Catch crew has 4 members now. I don't care whether it's at Slammiversary, I don't care whether it's at the next NXT show. Throw Wes Lee back in with his Rascals buddies for one night and do the proper 4-on-4 match with the complete Rascals taking on the No Quarter Catch crew. I think that's what they're building towards. I think it would be really cool if they threw that on Slammiversary to give them something a little bit bigger than people answering Jordynne Grace's open challenge, and it will give them a little something to make up for the fact that both Frankie Kazarian and Joe Hendry were both chucked out of the Battle Royal. Charlie Dempsey really being the guy to represent NXT as well, because he went to All Japan, and I think he was also involved in a match at Bloodsport 10. I could be wrong. Somebody tell me down in the box below. So Charlie Dempsey, even though he's been put in this weird situation with this weird bunch of guys, I do think they see a lot in him, and he kind of became the leader of the group after Drew Gulak got fucked, and yes, I do mean fucked, out of his job by Ronda Rousey, who followed the typical pattern of make as much money as you can in WWE and make the rest of the money you need by shitting on WWE. But that's another story for another day. Also, in the same vein, the whole TNA NXT crossover started with Jordynne Grace challenging Roxanne Perez. So the crossovers started with the women's division. They had Jordynne Grace take on, like I say, Stevie Nicks. They had Jordynne Grace take on Roxanne Perez. They had Jordynne Grace's open challenge at the last pay-per-view be answered by Tatum Paxley, and her open challenge was answered on this TV taping by Izzy Dame, which is awesome. Izzy Dame didn't win, obviously, but it's really cool. Like I said, they mentioned specifically with Izzy Dame, and I think it was true with Tatum Paxley as well, for both of them, this was the first match they had outside of the NXT or WWE system, which is also really cool. WWE gets a lot of slack for the NXT shows, like, oh, the NXT crowds, they're predisposed, they'll pop for anything. Okay, cool. So let's take somebody who's just learning, who needs more experience somewhere else, throw them in front of an entirely different audience and see how they do. Tatum Paxley did awesome on the pay-per-view not too long ago, and I don't know what the result is. I intentionally didn't read any, like, obviously Jordynne Grace won, but I didn't hear anything about the match. I didn't read anything about the match, because I do want to watch it when it comes up this Thursday. So, all the crossover, mostly TNA, also very cool to see Shayna Baszler going back to Bloodsport. It seems like that's going to be her thing, her participation in all this crossover stuff. We know we've got AJ Styles going to Noah at some point. I talked about it in the last pod, and we know we have Io Sky going to Marigold at some point as well. So all the crossovers are, like you say, the tendrils of WWE are kind of stretching out far and wide and vast, and I think that's really cool. Switching over to SmackDown now, there's one big story coming out of SmackDown, let's be real, but let's talk about the fact that it was in Madison Square Garden, the Mecca, the world's most famous arena. Let's talk about the fact that WWE, who are already operating on a steady level with this smaller Tron and stage and all that than they used to, went to an even smaller screen, because that's how many tickets they sold to this goddamn show. They did what I have dubbed, and what I will continue to dub, the small screen flex, to show you just how many people wanted to come to this show. They sold roughly twice as many tickets to a random Friday night episode of weekly television than The Forbidden Door did tonight, if you're wondering. As I said before, there was a match with Santos Escobar, Logan Paul, and LA Knight. Logan Paul came out with random basketball player number 1 who's not from New York, and then LA Knight got some help from random basketball player number 2 who apparently is from New York. I don't know basketball, I'm not going to pretend that I do. They both got in there, and there was brass knucks involved and blah blah blah. LA Knight won, and one of them brought in a chair, and you had the basketball players actually in the ring, so it wasn't just a quick cameo jump in and do a thing. People were comparing it to, DDP and Hogan and Rodman and Karl Malone. I don't think it's going to develop into that, if I'm completely honest, but it wasn't just a, hey, I'm going to wave and distract somebody. There was some actual involvement, and that's really cool, and it's the boring take, but, a little bit of corporate synergy, a little bit of get out to the mainstream, a little bit of all of that. It's boring business talk, but it's also really effective. It's like, hey, I'm a basketball fan. What do you mean this basketball player that I like showed up on a WWE show? I thought that stuff was fake, but I better check this out because I watch basketball and basketball's real. So if a real guy's going over, it's all that kind of stuff. It really, really is. But let's talk about what we really want to talk about. The Bloodline Acknowledgement Ceremony. Now, when this was announced last week, I thought it was going to be Solo Sikoa acknowledging Jacob Fatu as the latest member of the Bloodline. Now, they came out at the beginning of the night to do some stuff, but they didn't even make it all the way to the ring because they were assaulted by Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, and Kevin Owens, the members that are going to be having a 3-on-3 match with them here in Toronto at Money in the Bank. Now, it's kind of shit because I want to see Cody Rhodes defend the title. I wanted that Solo versus Cody match to happen in Toronto because I'm going to be there. Of course I wanted it to see. But, like, you've just added a fourth member to the Bloodline, so let's do a 3-on-3 match. Now, apparently Jacob Fatu has some legal stuff that keeps him from leaving the country, so he's not going to be at Money in the Bank. But the timing of it is just a little bit shit, where it's like, we've just added a fourth member, and to celebrate the fact that we've got a fourth member, we're going to have a 3-on-3 match. Am I nitpicking? Yes. Am I nitpicking because this version of WWE has made me expect more of them? Also, yes. But they were accosted. They didn't have Jacob Fatu with them at the time. Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, Tongaloa were attacked in the entryway by Cody and Kevin Owens and Randy Orton. And the brawl went for quite a while until they were removed from everybody by the building. Later on in the night, you saw Solo Sikoa and Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman asking where Jacob Fatu was. Solo Sikoa lying to him and saying, well, you told me that you thought Jacob Fatu was really violent, so he's not here tonight. Tonight, you're going to officially become my wise man. So that changed the dynamic. It's like, okay, we're not having the acknowledgement ceremony to welcome Jacob Fatu into the Bloodline. We're having this acknowledgement ceremony because Solo Sikoa wants to show some appreciation to Paul Heyman. Definitely not what happened. Instead, he stands in the center of the ring with the Bloodline, minus Jacob Fatu, and then introduces Jacob Fatu. So not only is the Bloodline there in full force, he's also lied to Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman shitting himself. Paul Heyman apparently didn't sleep, didn't shave, didn't shower. It showed. Eyes were red, looking unshaved, the whole fucking bit. He's all disheveled. Still goes to do the, my name is Paul Heyman, and da-da-da. Paul Heyman, the guy that had to sneak over the aisleway when he was a kid, when he was a young guy trying to get some photographs and stuff like that in the Garden, is now technically in the main event segment in the Garden. You gotta be happy for the hustle of Paul Heyman. It's really, really a cool thing to see. But they come out, they welcome Jacob Fatu out, and then one by one, they all acknowledge Solo Sikoa. He puts his mouth to the microphone and says, Madison Square Garden, acknowledge me. Paul Heyman begins to shit himself. Everybody in the ring acknowledges him. Most of it wasn't in English, or at least partially not in English, so I don't know what they said, but it's also one of those cool things where it does add a little bit of intrigue and a little bit of extra legitimacy to it, I suppose, because it's a family thing. They're going to talk to each other in a way that only they understand. There's a bond that comes with that. Turns to Paul Heyman, and he says, I want you to acknowledge me. And Paul Heyman, shaking in his boots, looking like he's about to shit himself, goes to say something, and then he reaches over to Tama Tonga, who's got a bag, and he dumps out the bag, and it's the lei that Sika had put on Roman Reigns. And I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And he says, wise man, this is your one chance to live, which is a great line. And he says, I want you to acknowledge me, ... as your tribal chief. Paul Heyman, with the look of a guy that knows he's going to the gallows, says, Solo, I love you, and I acknowledge that you are not my tribal chief. Gets the thumb to the neck, gets the shit beat out of him, gets put through a table with a shield powerbomb, symbolism on 10, and then gets a huge splash from Jacob Fatu as we go off the air, as we got the ones up in the air, as the bloodlines all posing together, as the rabid New York Madison Square Garden crowd, probably wearing out the censor button for Fox, chanting, fuck you, Solo. Beautiful. Cinema. I said before about the Wyatt stuff. If you don't like this, if it's not your thing, that's fine. it's a very niche. The whole horror stuff, the spooky, the supernatural, the culty type stuff that Wyatt was known for, and now these other people that are carrying on his legacy are going to be known for. Not for everybody. If you are a wrestling fan at all, and you are one of the ones, especially from the other side of the line, that like to sling mud at the WWE, well, they don't really tell stories, they don't really have long-term booking or whatever. If you watch this and you maintain that take, I cannot take you seriously. I just can't. I just can't. Because this is, you know, with the Usos, you're out the bloodline. And so am I. Super kick. This is Sami Zayn finally cracks Roman in the back with a steel chair, not only giving up this new family that had just adopted him, but basically putting himself in the line of fire as well. If you can look at this and say that this is not a long-term story that has so much more to come still, then I don't know what to tell you. Because Roman Reigns was the guy that got pushed as a babyface forever. He was the next Hogan. He was the next Cena. He was the next Great White Hope. No pun intended. That he was pushed down our throats so much that nobody believed that he could be a heel. And when he became a heel, he was so good at the heel thing that we hated him / loved what he was doing. To the point where now somebody else has stepped into his hollow ground as the head of the table, the tribal chief, the whatever, and we as a fan base are offended by that so much that Roman, by proxy, is now the biggest babyface in the company, to the point where that babyface element has now attached itself to Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman, kayfabe, one of the sketchiest, one of the slimiest car salesman managers in wrestling history, is now the sympathetic victim babyface. That's fucking gorgeous, and if you can't see that, I don't know what to tell you. If you just don't like WWE, just say you don't like WWE. If you just don't think this story is for you, then kind of like the Wyatts, I guess I'll say that that's fine, whatever. But you, at the very, very least, it's like Marvel. Not everybody likes superheroes. But acknowledge what Infinity War and Endgame accomplished. If you don't like the Usos, you don't like the whole Samoan thing, I hear a lot of people saying, why does the Samoan dynasty have to dominate all of wrestling? Well, first of all, that's kind of the point. Second of all, even if it's not your thing, you have to acknowledge what they have achieved here. They made the most vile guy 3 months ago the guy that everybody wants back. And it's what I said about CM Punk being injured. It's what I said about Drew McIntyre for the brief time that he was injured. There's that much going on, and Roman Reigns is in the building, even though he's not in the building. I don't know what else I can tell you from that. I don't. WWE's got a lot of stupid shit going on right now. I'll give you that. The disintegration of the Judgment Day is going pretty damn good. It's a little lighter. It's a little bit more on the entertaining side. They've got the Wyatt 6, which, if you're still actively shitting on it, I have to assume you don't have a heart or you don't have a soul or both. And the Bloodline has been going for 4 years now, and it's still somehow new. And the guys that are no longer in the building still feel like they're in the building. Shit on WWE for the bad stuff. Abso-fucking-lutely. But don't be stupid. This was fucking awesome. And props to Paul Heyman as well for taking the Shield powerbomb, because that looked like it fucking sucked. You know, the fact that anybody that would have helped Paul Heyman as well was eliminated earlier on in the night. There's no holes in this story. There's nobody left other than, like, Cody, KO, and Randy Orton might have, but they were taken out of the building. Who is going to voluntarily go up against this new bloodline, but also, who's really going to stick their neck out for Paul Heyman? Like, that's the other reason it makes sense. Like, the scummy thing, Jey Uso went to Raw, and he's trying to be a good guy now, but who's really going to defend him? Because he did do so much bad stuff, and he did participate in so much of the bad stuff that the Bloodline did. Who's really going to... And then you had Sami Zayn stick up for him, and then eventually everybody came around to him, except Drew McIntyre, and then suddenly Drew McIntyre looked like the asshole. Right now, who in their right mind would go up against this new Bloodline to save Paul Heyman? Nobody. Nobody, because Roman's not there. The other three left, and everybody else would be like, well, he's kind of a dick. He probably deserves it. You know, Frankenstein got killed by his monster, etc., etc., etc. Now, all of this eventually is going to lead to the rejoining, the recalibration of the old Bloodline. It's going to be Roman Reigns, it's going to be Jey, it's going to be Jimmy, it's probably going to be Sammy at some point, and maybe they bring in somebody new on their side as well when The Rock comes back and we do a big 5-on-5 thing. In the meantime, I didn't think about this until this week, because there's 4, right, on the one side. Paul Heyman doesn't have 4 people right now that would come to help him out, would come to build an army around him, etc. What if instead of bringing back the Bloodline, per se, what if you just brought in the Paul Heyman guys? What if, before the actual Bloodline comes back, the team that goes up against this new Bloodline is just the Paul Heyman guys? Something so bad has happened to Paul Heyman that you get Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and CM Punk on the same page. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but I am saying that that should fucking happen. Now, 3-on-4, what I would say as well, you see Roman Reigns, who's all of a sudden become the good guy again, and other people that tried to fight with him before can see that he's come the right way, call back his old brother Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins, not a Paul Heyman guy, but a Shield brother of Roman Reigns, who is a Paul Heyman guy. You get Solo and Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, Jacob Fatu versus CM Punk, Cody Rhodes, and Seth Rollins all on the same page. Sorry, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes. No, that's not what you do. You get CM Punk, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins on the other side. Sorry, got myself a little bit twisted as to the match that we're actually getting this coming Saturday, but we will get to that when we get to that, and when we get to that, we'll be right stat now. The 3 nights that I'm going to be spending in Scotiabank Arena, I'm going to be sitting in section 103, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in the same seat, because I got a bundle ticket, because that's how they sell tickets now, which is absolutely fantastic. What am I gonna see this weekend? This weekend coming up, and I'm saying this weekend because we haven't even had Raw yet, we haven't even had NXT yet. We're getting DIY versus A-Town Down Under in a WWE Tag Team Championship match, which is awesome. The Street Profits have kind of been pulled away from the Bloodline story because they're going to be taking on the returning Pretty Deadly. Pretty Deadly came to Madison Square Garden, and they wanted to do Pretty Deadly the musical, which isn't happening. Instead, we're getting the Street Profits versus Pretty Deadly in Toronto, and for reasons, Jade and Bianca are still a team, and they're going to job out Candice and Indy, which is super unfortunate. I should say as well, leaving the pay-per-view to one side, a string of 3 SmackDowns, one in a really hot Chicago, one in a really hot Madison Square Garden, and one in a jam-packed, if you believe WrestleTix, 18,000 plus seater Scotiabank Arena in Toronto. That's not a bad 3 SmackDowns to have back to back to back, is it? So, DIY versus A-Town Down Under for the titles. Profits versus Pretty Deadly, I'm sure will be a lot of fun. Jade and Bianca will have a Jade and Bianca match against Candice and Indy, which is absolutely fine. We switch over to Saturday, Money in the Bank. Priest versus Rollins with all those stipulations involved. Zayn versus Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship. The Bloodline versus Cody Rhodes and company. And the 2 Money in the Bank matches are Io, Chelsea, Lyra, Tiffany, and Naomi, and one other person to be established on Raw. The qualifier is a match that I cannot think of off the top of my head. And for the men, it's Jey Uso, Carmelo Hayes, LA Knight, Andrade, Chad Gable, and the winner of the triple threat match between Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Ilya Dragunov, in which somebody's gonna die. That's just a thing. And then we move on to Sunday NXT Heatwave, which right now has right now has 5 matches? Yes, right now has 5 matches, which is Roxanne Perez taking on Lola Vice for the Women's Championship, Kalani Jordan taking on Sol Ruka for the Women's North American Championship, Obafemi taking on Wesley for the Men's North American Championship, Chase Yu, who won a gauntlet this week, taking on Frazier and Axiom for the tag team titles, and the main event, which is sitting right now as a fatal 4-way between Trick Williams, Javon Evans, Sean Spears, and All Ego Ethan Page. Now, 5 matches right now. Now, you got to remember, with Heatwave, we've also got the rumored debut of Julia, as well as who knows who is going to show up from TNA or anywhere else. I mean, NXT seems to be the crossover place, so are we going to see somebody from TNA? Are we going to see somebody from Bloodsport? Are we going to see somebody from Noah, All Japan, Marigold, all these places that are working with WWE right now? Are we going to see somebody from the main roster? Is somebody going to win a Money in the Bank briefcase and cash in on a champion in NXT? It's only happened... No, it hasn't happened once. The Royal Rumble win was once cashed in on an NXT champion, and that was Charlotte and Rhea, and we don't really want to talk about that. Do we want to set a precedent that somebody can cash in a Money in the Bank briefcase win on a NXT champion? Maybe. Do you want to use that to boost the cred of NXT, who is basically your input point for all these different crossovers you're doing? I think that would be a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun to be had with the fact that 3/4 of the OC are currently having matches in NXT. Could there be some crossover with AJ Styles? Who the hell knows? There's a lot of stuff going on right now. But I'm going to stop now because I'm losing my voice and I'm still not quite used to being back on camera just yet. As I said, if you're listening to this on an audio platform, I really need you guys to get on Twitter and tell me how the audio is on the podcast side of things. Losing my voice. Going to stop talking now. I've been Spaz, your YWC Reality Check. Subscribe up there. Talk down there. Start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, I am tagging out.